Welcome back to Spectral Sessions. We are at the time for our first panel called New Spectral Technology and Missions. We have with us Lori Wickert from Descartes Labs. Lori, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you introduce yourself real quick. We do have free Spectral Sessions goodies that we mail them straight to your door. Make sure you click that link at the very top of this session and we'll get that to you. Lori, you have it.
Thanks very much, JP. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Lori Wickert. I'm a remote sensing geologist and the AME lead with Descartes Labs. I'm an applications user, so I'm one of those people that really is very happy to get as much hyperspectral data as I can. And so we're very lucky to have with us today, as member of panel 3, representatives of some very new hyperspectral missions that are either in progress with new ones coming. And we're very excited to have all of the members of this panel to talk about some of the new hyperspectral missions, as I mentioned, coming up. So how we're going to work this morning is that each of our panel participants is going to introduce themselves and give a little bit of a brief summary of their respective missions, in particular talking just an overview of some of the technical specs, data availability, and then really talk about what are the objectives of their mission and tell us about that. And then a little bit later, we're going to have a group discussion about some really important aspects that we identified that are interesting from a user perspective. So Godela, I'm going to ask you to go first because you have some exciting news to share with us as well.
Yes, thank you, Lori. Yeah, that's true. I'm really happy. As we started the NNet mission, I started with that right away. So on last Friday, it was very successful, and they're very excited to get everything smooth and running and see data then in the commissioning phase and later on. Well, but back to me. My name is Godela Rossner. I'm with the Dlr Space Agency, so the German Space Agency, and they're responsible for application development and data exploitation for national and European missions for Earth observation. From my background, I'm a geographer and spent some years in research on land monitoring, nature conservation, stuff like that. And then already in 2005, I went to the Space Agency. And one of my first tasks was exactly to support the NNet mission, user requirements, and preparation of the data utilization. Yes, and then since 2010, I became team lead for the application development and data exploitation. So yeah, I'm really excited about hyperspectral missions as well. I'm happy to have this panel here with my colleagues. Yeah, curious what we'll find out this afternoon for me, and you're in the morning.
So Godela, can you give us like a brief summary of the technical specs of Nmap for maybe some of our users who aren't as familiar, and then just talk a little bit about the data, and then what's the objective of that mission like overall?
Okay. Well, Nmap, as I said, hyperspectral mission from the visible to the shortwave infrareds. So I hope everything still works here. Can you still hear me? Because I don't see anything anymore. Okay. It has about 240 bands. It has a spatial resolution of 30 meters, 30 by 30, and a swath of 30 kilometers. And we will collect about 1,000 kilometers of data per orbit, 5,000 per day. And the revisit will be 27 days. So, and if we use the how do you say, if we don't look only nadir, but use the, well,
it's pointable.
Yeah, it's pointable. Thank you for helping out. And then we have 4 days of revisit. It's really weird. I hope are you still seeing me?
Yeah, yes, we can see you just fine.
Okay,
I'm
because
sorry.
I don't.
For you,
It's for me. It's sorry. No, it's black. But if everything works for you, that should be fine.
No, that's great.
You asked furthermore on the mission objectives, right?
Yes.
Well, one of the from the technical side, the main objective of the NMAP mission was really to demonstrate that we can collect high quality data, high quality hyperspectral data from space to really have a high signal to noise ratio. So that's what we're very keen to, if we can see that then after finalization of the LEO phase. But then from the application point of view, of course, the mission of the objective is to demonstrate and to demonstrate hyperspectral applications, to understand better the natural processes of the Earth system, to understand, the contents, the characteristics of natural phenomena, and also what man-made changes may cause. In that respect, we think it's a demonstration mission, but with the potential to raise high interest in the user community. So that would be another very important objective for us to see a lively community and high output in the sense of demonstration of applications and user potential of hyperspectral data from space.
Okay, thank you. Is the data only going to be released initially? I mean, once you're past the commissioning phase, but is the data going to be largely just for the research community, or is it going to be available to everyone? And is there a schedule for that? Well,
as it is pointable, the let's say new data, so the data acquisitions will be in the hands, mainly in the hands of scientists through a proposal process, but in general, it is freely available, so also accessible for anyone else who wants to demonstrate and explore the data.
Okay, okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay, Francesco, let's move off to you, if you don't mind introducing yourself, and then similarly talk a little bit about your mission and what data will be available, just as a contrast. And you have an interesting situation where you have an existing mission and a future mission, so that's kind of fun too.
Thank you very much. It's very important. And congratulations to our friends of DLR for the successful launch. And it's important to stress that I'm in Colorado Springs to the Space Symposium these days, and it was interesting to visit the stand of DLR and to confirm that we have an important agreement on hyperspectral. Then the results is not only that we have 2 satellites, but these 2 satellites could work together, and the results is that we have more than 2, considering the commons, the joint, the cooperation on this field. Prisma is going well. The characteristic of Prisma is the resolution, the spatial resolution is 30 meters, with the spectral resolution is 10 nanometers in mean on all the spectrum from visible, near infrared, and shortwave infrared. And what's changed respect to the past, that we are open not only to research and application for institutional and research, but also to commercial, open and free, also in these days. Then we want to push on application, considering also the opportunities of the commercial field. What's for the future in this sense? We have for hyperspectral in reflective part of the spectrum 2 initiatives. The first one is the follow-on of Prisma, named the Prisma second generation. It's not too fantasy, but I hope it works. And in this case is a big improvement in the performance of Prisma, because we are moving from 30 meters of resolution to 10 meters in considering the ground motion, the movement of the platform that focalize on some parts, in order to guarantee very good signal to noise ratio. And the second initiative is the compact payload of Prisma. Not only 1 ton connection. The problem with the connection may be now it's okay, I think. And but considering the performance of Prisma in 100 kilograms of payload for small satellite, for small platform. And this is an important, we started already with our national industries in order to confirm this approach. Then the big one that increased the performance, and the small one that confirmed the performance on Prisma. For other point, I think this could be useful for discussion, is to move the hyperspectral from the reflective part to emissive part of the spectrum, then in thermal infrared, in medium long wave part of the thermal infrared. But I think we can have time to discuss also about this point.
Absolutely. That sounds very interesting for sure. For me as well, as an applications user. All right. Thank you so much, Francesco. Kerry, I would love to hear about your future mission as well. So let's turn the floor over to you and tell us a little bit about yourself for starters.
Thanks a lot, Laurie. So my name is Kerry Cawse-Nicholson. I'm a scientist at the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Currently, I'm the science lead for a mission called EcoStrace, which is a thermal radiometer on the International Space Station. And this is a precursor instrument for an upcoming mission that I'm working on. So NASA is planning a big Earth system observatory. And as part of that, we'll plan to map the Earth's surface, biology, and geology. And we're calling that mission SBG for short for now. And SBG will have 2 parts. One of them will be another multi-channel thermal radiometer like EcoStrace. And that is in collaboration with Aussie. So great to have Francesco on the call as well. And so that will have a number of thermal channels, probably a midwave channel with about 60-meter resolution. And we're aiming for a 2 to 3 day revisit time, which will be great for monitoring drought, wildfire, volcanic eruptions. And the other instrument will be a spectrometer, similar to those described by InMap and Prisma. And so we'll aim to make measurements from 400 to 2500 nanometers spectrally, and 30-meter spatial resolution, and about a 16-day revisit. And so all of that is coming up with anticipated launches in about the 2027-28 timeframe. So we're doing a lot of work on preparing for building such mission. And right now I'm working as the co-lead for the algorithms working group, along with Phil Townsend from the University of Wisconsin. And part of that effort has been to gather members from the community, people from the applications users, from researchers, scientists around the world, to work out exactly which products we might need to produce to answer our science questions, and which algorithms we might need to develop or use existing algorithms to produce those. And so that's an open effort, and if anybody wants to get involved, then feel free to reach out to me. But we'll be answering science objectives in many areas, ranging from snow and ice, volcanology, terrestrial and aquatic ecosystems, focusing on the coastal and inland waters, and hydrology as well. So anything from snowmelt to evapotranspiration to volcanic emissions to biodiversity to water quality. Our scope is huge, and so it is a very exciting mission to work on.
Yeah, I know that definitely sounds really interesting, and it touches, it's a multidisciplinary science solution, right? And from InSight. So for participating in that working group, and then also for the future for when the data does become available, is the plan to have that data available also to all of the potential users, both commercial and scientific? Yeah.
Yes, NASA has an open data policy, and so that data will be available to everyone who wants it. And we greatly encourage users of the data and participants in our working group. I've been working in the algorithms working group, but we also have an applications working group, a modeling working group, and a CalVal working group. So we welcome participation in any of those.
Yeah, well, based on all of this information, all these missions come up, it's a very exciting time for hyperspectral for everyone. I think that speaks well to our ability to be able to characterize your surface in all kinds of different ways. So that's pretty exciting. So the second part of this panel where I really hope to have us all be able to engage on particular questions is really to have a panel discussion amongst ourselves. I kind of identified a couple of different questions. And the first one is, what is really the role of the remote sensing community? And when we talked about all those different application groups that you mentioned, Kerry, and we think about, there's commercial interests, there's science interests, and there's also some, guidance and from each of the different missions, really, to think about, well, what are the specific questions that you're trying to answer? How do we go about communicating? How do we go about collaborating to try to answer some of those questions and really focus on how do we get to those solutions that you're talking about? Is it through working groups? Is it by sharing and doing data and doing typical research on demonstration missions? What are the kinds of solutions that you have seen that work, and how can users contribute to that best? Does anyone have an opinion they'd like to start with?
So I can kick that off, but just to expand further on what we'd already said, is that we really believe that community involvement is key. We want the data to be useful both to the science and research community as well as to applications users. And so SBG has been working with a firm called RTI International to actually survey a number of users in different application areas to work out exactly what they might need and how we can support that and how we can design a mission that is of the greatest benefit to both the science and applications community. So that's an ongoing effort. And I'm interested to hear how the other missions are handling their community engagement.
Yeah, can I intervene?
Please, yes.
Yeah, the key role of the users is clear. What we do normally is we have in Italy a strong user forum, a forum of all users, and for instance, science applications, commercial. It is important when we start a new mission to involve these communities in order to have feedback about the requirements, the mission requirement domain, all the items and present during the development the results that we reach if the performances are confirmed or not. And another point, then at the end, we support during all the development of the mission initiatives, simulation, the involvement of the group of, in this case, of research, scientific and application communities, in order to give us the right hand in order to from the communities. And this relation with the user forum is continuous, and we present the mission in order to have feedback as a satellite or a constellation and so on about it. And this is a very important role for users. When we produce a modification like in this case for the commercial request is coming from the users, because okay, it's finished the part of let me say, precursor in order to understand how to support this type of application. Nice time to push on the commercial part of Hyperspectral. This is the process that we try to apply with some success and some elements to modify during this road.
Okay. Do you find with this approach that you've been doing that your user community is growing, or what is the impact on different groups? Do you find that it's largely like a university or research community, or are you finding good engagement coming from even the commercial sector? What's your experience with that been?
It's very important, this question, because each mission at the starting point needs some support for the communities in order to use the data, because you have to move the people from the comfort zone, from other sensor maybe, because Hyperspectral is fantastic, but it's not so simple to use. Yes. A lot of effort. Then what we do is starting with a call supporting economically from the fund points of view the activities, not only to the institutes, that is simple because we are part of the administration, but also the private that propose tricky opportunities for hyperspectral. Then and we see that the community is growing. Is a question we have to support continuously. Is not we can't remove this support during the mission evolving. Then, but we have a lot of very good results.
Okay, really interesting. Godela, I'd really love to get some of your insights from your experience with the NMAP mission. You've been planning on providing support, and you've been having community engagement for quite some time in the preparation for this mission. What are some of the experiences that you've had, and what works for the community that you've got engaged at the moment?
Well, first of all, I would totally underline what Francesco just said, and Kerry as well, that community engagement is key to drive things forward. And so that's exactly something that we started quite early with for the NMAP mission, as we also have the feeling that getting used to hyperspectral data would not be necessarily straightforward for all the potential users that, for the bigger part, maybe are more used to multispectral whatsoever. So what we did was invite the community, and not only scientists, but always the invitations were open for commercial and also public users, to have workshops with information, but also to have some material to train people, and also the NMAP box as a as a toolbox to make it easier to get used to the data, and also provide it with some simulated NMAP data, so that it's not all new when the mission is running. Up to now, the main part of the user community is scientists, and I think that's also very well explainable. As for industry, but they want to see the data, I think, and they want to have the real experience what they can do with it. Nevertheless, there's a big interest, and I think those that are already familiar and have an idea what to do with hyperspectral data are following up the NMAP evolution very well, and are also aware about that it's not only NMAP right now, but that we have a hyperspectral era to come with already Prism and NMAP in orbit, and then also SPG and Shine coming up, and other hyperspectral initiatives, also on the commercial side. So I think there's a lot of there is already a big community, and now with the data and with more and more data, it I think will even more flourish. So that would be also my hope, to have them engaged in forms of workshops, working groups, workshops, but also through platforms like the NMAP box or any data platform where experience with the data can be exchanged and shared in the community.
Yeah.
If I can add a point, Lori, I think that our ambition as agency is that hyperspectral data will be a must-have for users, for public administration. Like a simple example is the GPS. We can do without GPS. I think that the success, the study success of our investment are that hyperspectral, not only from Italy, but from all the communities all together, we have a system that produces hyperspectral data that are essential part of the activities of our users.
Yeah, I mean, I completely am behind all of the points that all of you have raised. In the role that I have currently with the position I have with Descartes Labs, I'm involved with the training. Many of the users that were, that are using remote sensing to help find solutions. My particular role is in mineral exploration, but there are many other people that are doing other very interesting things with the data. And there's a significant interest in using hyperspectral data, but there's also a huge gap in knowledge about how to use it. Any help that's out there that can come through the exposure of these missions for those users that I have the ability and have the interest in and see the benefits and using hyperspectral data to provide solutions to those questions that they have obviously for them, it's more of a commercial application, but having those resources and data available and all of that to help provide access and help give them the supports to get to the solutions faster, would be fantastic. Because it for myself as say, one person or a small team that we have, we don't have the ability to do all of that ourselves, obviously. And then there's the, as you said, Francesco, it's working with hyperspectral data is not like working with Landsat data. It's much more complicated. We all know this, and it takes a, much more effort to learn about the technology and all the different application corrections and how to do the processing to work with this data effectively. And one of the things that comes up as well is a question of, say, spectral signatures and spectral libraries. We have the USGS, which puts out a publicly available a spectral library, for minerals and for many other things. And there are other available data sets. Do you think that from each of the missions that you're working on, that contributing to spectral libraries that can be publicly accessible might be another way of contributing to this community?
Well, actually, Laurie, I wanted also to come back to the point you made earlier, that training is so essential and would be also worthwhile for example, for the community you work with. I wanted to give you actually the feedback that, we started with some education material on hyperspectra, and I think there's probably even more outside. So this hyper education initiative, where we put together some initial introduction on how to work with it. But I think also at that end, it would be very worthwhile to have feedback from the application users and have their experience and have their feedback on what would be needed to train or even to put things together and make them openly available. And on the other topics, so you asked for the spectral libraries. Up to now, any data, any information that would help to explore the data, it would be our intent to make them available to the community. As far as I know, it's still an issue to bring the different spectral libraries together due to different metadata and so on. So probably also something where within the community there could be some exchange and also feedback to make this easier happen.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Not having the really good quality control on the data collection and metadata, changes the value of the spectral libraries for sure. Absolutely, no question. Yeah, I think that whole point on education and accessibility and collaboration amongst our community could really help, skyrocket the use of hyperspectral data. And there's just such a wealth of information. We know this as users that we can derive from this data, so that the benefits to our communities and helping provide solutions to the mission objectives that you guys all identified, I think could really make a difference and really help grow that interest and use of that data and help provide solutions across the board, for sure. What else could we do in our community to help with that engagement, do you think? I'm trying to think myself of the things that we've done to try to get that community of people to see the benefits of hyperspectral. It takes some investment of time, for sure, to get to that point where I think a big important thing is definitely having access to the data. So all the news that you shared is extremely positive for that community. Anyway, I'd really love to hear more from you about what things that you have done in your communities, and maybe some ideas that you have about how we can engage our community, our potential community, I guess, because we hope to grow with them, for sure.
Yeah, if I can say something on this point, the question of the engagement of the communities is very important because it is connected to the sustainability of the initiative, in the sense that if the goal is that the people must use hyperspectral data for a lot of application, we see for lands, water quality, vegetation, and material identification, a lot of opportunities is included in. We will discover in the future more and more. And one of the important elements that we have to do is that we must invest on young and education. I think education and young are the key words of this type of hyperspectral, because is our young technologies, our young system, and helping young to develop a deep interest for application, for using hyperspectral. Bringing closer to the knowledge, developing a library, because the library of USGS is an example that we have to work together. Is not only an Italian or German mission that work alone. We start from some libraries, but we know that each scientist, each researcher will develop some libraries that fits better on specific application. Then what we have to do is our seminars, webinar, and events, demonstrations on the powerful opportunities of hyperspectral, but with a special focus on young and education of the young people.
I fully agree with you, Francesco. I think that it's important for SPG as well, given that we'll only launch in quite a few years' time. I really enjoy speaking to classes at universities and even at schools, because, and I say to these classes as well, by the time the mission launches, you will be the ones who are the new researchers and scientists who will be working with this data and actually making those scientific breakthroughs. And so encouraging enthusiasm at that sort of early career stage is so important. But to also add to your question, to answer your question, Laurie, something else that we've been focusing on is high level products to build that enthusiasm and usability. And so, working with hyperspectral radiance data it takes a certain amount of expertise. But if we're able to make easily available data sets that are, number one, smaller, you don't have to download hundreds of bands worth of data. You can simply download a volcanic gas emission layer, and it's small and it's usable, and you can ingest it for your application or your research and start there and sort of gain usability and interest with those higher level products. Then I think that more and more people will be more interested in the spectral data itself and what more they might be able to do with it themselves.
Yeah, that analysis ready data set is what you mean. Yeah. Go ahead, Godela. Excuse me. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry for interrupting, but I would be interested, Kerry, how do you go about the definition and specification of these high-level products? Do you have a process, or how do you do it?
Yeah, great question. That we spend a lot of time in our algorithms working group working out exactly how we would produce such products, the algorithms that we might need and the specifications that we would need to meet. And so it's just been a lot of investment in communication with the various communities to say to the applications community, what sort of product and what sort of accuracy would you need in order for you to actually use this product? And then going back to the algorithms community and saying, how would we process the data to achieve that accuracy, and what sort of data formats might we need to produce? And so it's something that is very much a work in progress. And so I welcome any of your thoughts from it, Godela, especially as you learn from MMAP, because obviously you will have time to experience that use and usability before we launch.
Actually, well, then the second question would then be, how do you plan to implement these products? Would it be on the level of the ground segment so that it's automatically distributed, or is it, yeah, actually, as we did it with the Nmap box, we didn't think that we should include it in the ground segment, as there are, well, many issues with transferability, robustness with these specific high-level products. So we did it on the level of providing algorithms with the Nmap box to make it easier for users to see, well, what could I do about vegetation in the agricultural domain, for example, or the water bodies.
Yeah, and Nmap box is wonderful. It's a really great tool that your team have developed. So we're considering, and obviously with a launch so many years into the future, many things might change, but the goal for now is to make products available as a simple download where users wouldn't need to run their own algorithms. That's one option. Something else that we're considering is on-demand processing in the cloud. But something that we've learned from EcoStrace is that our higher level products have been downloaded many more times than the raw data. And so there has been such a great user community who would prefer to simply download something that's ready to use. And we hope to see the same sort of uptake with SPG, but as to exactly how that data will be produced, we have hopefully 6-7 years to optimize the route for making that data available.
Yeah. When I think of the comments that you've all made, a couple of things really come to mind. I think of I obviously coming from a mineral exploration focus, I've worked so much with Aster data. We always consider it kind of the workhorse of mineral exploration, and I think of the contribution that was made by the Aster science team, that you really had the opportunity to look at some of the tough problems and look at the corrections for the data, look at how the data could be used, and had many contributions from many people across the globe that demonstrated how the data could be used to provide solutions. And that kind of approach is what I hear from all of you, that is kind of a, the ways that you can get involved with your different missions to help contribute to this body of knowledge and to help identify solutions, both from a educational perspective or a commercial perspective. I think that's all really positive. The other thing, and this comes back to your point, Francesco, about education and about schools, I have to say, and this is speaking really from a geologist perspective, that we are seeing a little bit of resurgence of remote sensing and interest in that has come about because of COVID and not being able for people to go into the field, that kind of thing, a little bit more. But the reality is, if I think of my own background, there are very few schools where remote sensing is used in a geological mineral exploration setting. I come from Canada, so in Canadian schools, there were 2 places I could have gone to do PhD work, and there's very few places where we actually use remote sensing, and also because of the user community, remote sensing kind of fell off the wagon in terms of one of the potential locations where, you know, people would keep a remote sensing group within an exploration company. In fact, most of the remote sensing users that are in our community all ended up being consultants. And so that we need to go back, I think, like you said, Francesco, and support that community and support new scientists, new students, and professors that can provide, you know, guidance and support and training to those new users of using for this hyperspectral data, not just for mineral exploration, but for all of those different areas of interest where we can use these data. And I don't know how we can do that. Everybody's trying really hard already, but I just think that if there are opportunities where we can collaborate to help support those users, those educators that are key, as you said, Francesco, I think that would be really positive for the future to, you know, have the ability and interest and educational background to be able to use this data effectively to provide the solutions that we'd like to see across our user community. So how close are we to time? I guess we're pretty close.
We're getting close. Laurie, do you want to take care of some questions from the audience?
That would be great. Please extend them out to the whole panel. Yes. Okay, perfect.
So first of all, I love this panel. I know that hyperspectral data is a lot of data to get down. So the idea of pushing out products or this analysis ready data to be able to, so users don't have to download, you know, huge amounts and then have to figure out like what kind of new processing they need. And that's part of training up the younger generation that have taken remote sensing classes. Like here's hyperspectral and this is how it's different, right? One of the questions that we got earlier was, why do you think there's such a resurgence in hyperspectral based remote or space-based? And like, why now and what's so different? This is open for anybody to ask or answer.
Yeah, it's something that we had hoped to launch a mission called Hyperspectral a decade ago, and it's, you know, since transformed to become SPG. And I think the difference between then and now has been, a lot of it has been the improvement in computing resources. You know, as you said, it's a lot of data. We're planning to be a global mapping mission, and so providing 200 bands at 30-meter resolution across the whole globe is just an incredible amount of data. And so having the ability to do that kind of processing in the cloud to make that data available, I think has been key towards making these sort of global mapping hyperspectral missions more feasible.
Here's another one.
Please.
Or Francesco, if you want to.
No, it's the same, only to stress the same concept of Kerry.
Here's another one. What opportunities do you see for public and private entities to work together on hyperspectral missions and associated capabilities? For example, algorithm and data standards.
Of course, the goal is to give available the algorithm, what the processors and what is needed for a specific application. But we have to consider that if a company develops some specific processor, there are they don't want to share with others, because if they have the specific goal in the commercial, then what we can do is to realize some public, for example, on toolbox in JPL, there is also a sister, correct me, Kerry, if I say something wrong, in order to give the opportunity to all the people to start working on hyperspectral using already consolidated and mature algorithms. This is, I think, our first step. In any case, the second step is up to a single company in order to develop the characteristic, the specific algorithms that are of interest in the commercial field.
Yeah, fully agree, Francesco, and also to expand on that, to say from the perspective of SPG, commercial companies are welcome to join our working groups as well, and have a say, and we want the whole community to have a voice, and we do have a number of folks from companies and entities, just like Envy, for instance, and L3Harris, who participate in our user working groups, and so everyone is welcome.
There are also a limit of intellectual properties, of course, that the single can develop and is the owner of that development.
I like what I'm hearing. You know, one day, once these sensors come out, you know, people will be able to publish papers and say, this is a bunch of Prisma or Nmap image spectra that I've collected, and, you know, hopefully it's useful in your analysis. Maybe you can find it on GitHub or something. But this is a fantastic panel. Thank you, Kerry, Lori, Godela, Francesco. Hey, you're in Colorado Springs. I am too. Maybe we'll have lunch, Francesco. Thank you, everyone. Remember that the questions that you asked, we will still look at them. You can submit them directly to the specific speaker at the time. Up next is Earth, Wind, and Fire panel starting at 10:55 Mountain Time. See you there, and thank you everyone for being a part of this.